Hi, this is Tenacious Earl with hopefully a relatively quick video here, just discussing a little bit about what's going on. The next tournament for the Tenacious Golf Tour is going to be the NorCal Open, or NorCal Pro-Am. So there's no AMs involved in this, but this is maybe in the future I'll figure out how to incorporate that. But this is just going to be the tournament with the professionals, that part of it. Field is 156 players. Now, what I've done at this point is I've developed a mechanism to help determine regular golfers on the tour who would be taking a week off. So, the better the golfer, the likelier they're going to be taking a week off here or there. There'll still be plenty of the lower ranked lower tournament rated golfers that will take time off too, but they'll just be a little less frequent. But so in that regard, we have 156 players that are in the field. When I did those calculations, and I used a Google sheet to do that, I'm not going to tell you exactly how, but it took 18 golfers out of the mix from the 125 that have tour cards. So that takes it from 125 down to 107. So that means there were 49 golfers that needed to qualify. And so I just did the Monday qualifiers this morning. I decided not to broadcast any parts of that. I don't know how. I mean, I really get the impression at times that if it can get to be a bit much when there's a bunch of videos right in succession with all of this stuff. And when I did the qualifier rounds that were sort of like flushing out the last couple golfers, I felt like it was somewhat what's the term I'm looking for? Inconsequential, because those guys, a lot of those guys, if not all of them, didn't even make the cut. So that's what happens when you do this. So we had like 49 qualifiers. I did my typical, so what I've done is, as I did in the previous tournament, the San Diego Open, I used the making the cut rolls, but just didn't worry about outstanding golfers or anything like that. I just rolled them off like that. And so what it gave me, that gave me 40. So, and also let me mention this. Every time I took the last golfer to be decided to have made the field to qualify, and I took them out and put them aside. So what I had was 11 piles. I figured it's about 4.4 golfers that qualify with this making the cut when you do that. So I took the last one out. So if you have 11, that's around 48. And actually it worked out almost exactly to that. I had 48 that came out early. And so this is the other thing about it, is that the last one to go into that pile, that is the playoff guys, that comes out of the top golfers almost exclusively. So what I thought of as that is, so these guys are qualifiers. They're good, but not good enough. So if they're using the fact that they are have a better rating than other golfers that have sort of got the rolls, I figured that means that they're kind of like pulling rank, and they're getting in on sort of a technicality. So the lowest rated golfer that makes it in from the top is what goes in, if that's how it works out. So from doing that, I ended up having 48 golfers come out of those 11 piles that were sort of in the first bits. So the first group. So I had usually 4 or 5 in each of those spots. There was one that only got 2 out. But in any regard, so we got 48, and that left one spot for 11 golfers. And so this morning, that's what I did, and I'll just show you the scorecards here. Not really much that's going to be that. I don't know if it'll be interesting or not. But so this is from Pacific Golf Links, one of the most famous courses best courses in the world. If you can't figure out which one that is, then leave a comment and maybe I'll comment. But I try to respect. Play seems to hesitate to use real names, and so I'm trying my best not to. But just think of a clam bake. If you're a golf fan and you know of a tournament that used to be called the Crosby Clam Bake or whatever, then you probably have an idea what this course is. Now this is I had to adapt this a little bit because that tournament, which is also a pro-am, it is carried out over 3 courses in the first 3 days. They kind of rotate between the 3, and then the cut isn't made till the 3rd round. I've adapted that here because we aren't using... The reason they have to do that is that they've got groups of 1 pro, and I think it might be... Well, actually, they're twosomes. A pro and an amateur, so they've got like double the field. So that's the way they've addressed it. Is to take it on to 2 courses, so then it's not such a backlog of golfers. But anyway, so I had these 11. I used a D20 to determine the pairings relatively randomly, and so the first group that went through, and so I didn't mesh these at all. I thought maybe it would be better not to do that, just because I figured then I could segment it. If I couldn't get through all 3, I wouldn't be cutting it halfway. The downside of that is you end up having this situation where you would say that the 3rd grouping knows what the first 2 did and could use that to inform how they play. So be it. Maybe in the future I will kind of mesh them, but at this point I just decided to roll them separately. So you had Dallas Downs, Hyro Roach, Jeffrey Clark, and Boyd Yeager in the first group. Boyd Yeager ended up being the first, so the best player out of the starting group. He was at -1 through 18. So he came in at -1 on the back 9. That kind of helped him out. Kind of the even 2 birdies, 2 bogeys on the front. What it's real, I'll tell you, give you some key learnings about this course that I've got just from playing these. That's another reason I like doing this qualifier stuff, is it kind of gives me an idea of how the course plays in play.com's manifestation of it, because hardly any of us ever get a chance to play any of these courses, but once you see how they play it out, or how it's sort of formulated within how they've done it, it kind of gives you an idea of what your strategy might be, what the golfer's strategy might be once we get to the final round. So, you had a Yeager. So then, and if you've noticed here, we only had 2 birdies on number 2. So number 2, I'll just give you a little bit of a course primer. The early part of the round, I would say, is where you really need to sort of dig in. There's still some tough holes, namely number 4, but number 2 and number 6. Numbers 2, 6, and 7 can be places where you can get strokes back if your strategy and your kind of luck gets together, because these 2 guys are double cordial. I think 6 is also double cordial. Par 5s, and 2 is direct, so you can get some eagles, and we already had some, but you've got 2 and 6. You got 4 that's a pretty tough hole. 8 and 9 are famously tough. 8 crosses the cove there with the second shot, so it's a bear. Yeager actually got a birdie on 8, which is remarkable, but everybody bogeyed 4 in this group. So then you get to the back 9, and I would say all of these holes are just really bears. You'll get an occasional birdie. 14 is a tough par 5. The green is a jerk. If you've ever played, maybe some of you have played this on Tiger Woods or something like that. If you know that 14 is really a 3-shot par 5, and the green, it can just, and especially I would definitely play this one as firm, and there's some others. I think 13 is listed as firm on the cards, but if I was going to use this as a US Open or PGA Championship course, there's a couple of these I would just firm up, and it would just make them pretty much unplayable. You can see here 14, these guys all bogeyed it except for Roach. Unfortunately for him, he took a triple on 17. That just was a nightmare for him. So we got to 18. 18, you can get a birdie there. You're not going to eagle it usually. He might get a, well, usually you're not. I'll talk about what happens here later on. But anyway, the second group, you had Yi Chen. He came in and he got an eagle on 2. Hit a great shot there. He had a blue chip to make it an easy eagle putt from a moderate eagle putt, and he got it. So and also so this is Yi Chen, Tetsuo Shoni, I think that's his name. I created Peterson, Samson Peterson, and Bob Demmelmeyer. So Peterson and Chen both got eagles on 2, and you can see everybody was under par on that hole. So we had a fast start. Demmelmeyer bogeyed 3. We had Chen birdie 4, which is another remarkable result. But yeah, just worked that out. Then he took a bogey at 5, but birdied 7, the short par 3. That it's only like 100 yards. It's basically like a lob wedge for these guys. But 6, I'll tell you what, 6 played harder than I expected. Usually I figure that's a pretty simple par 5, but it didn't play as simple as I thought it would. Peterson did get a birdie. So we end up through the tough part of the course to 8 and 9, which I think is really the kind of a bear of the course, in 14. But 8 and 9, you had Chen at -2, you had Peterson at -1, and you had Shono and Demmelmeyer at +3. They were pretty much out of contention at that point to be able to get the spot. Then you had Chen birdie the first 2 on the back 9. That put him at -4. He did bogey 12, but he got a birdie at 14. Bogeyed 16, but that birdie at 14 on this really tough par 5 got him to -3. He did par the 18th just to close it out, but so he ended up, and Peterson ended at +2. Didn't work out so well. This guy I was kind of hoping, because he started out pretty decent, being a guy that I created, maybe we'd see him get in, but instead it's going to be Chen. We'll talk about the final group here. Holt, is it Eric Holt, Yanni Nijima, and Wes Kester. Kester looked like he had something going on here. He got to -3 with an eagle at 2, and but then the wheels just kind of fell off. He took a double on 8. That really set him back. So he's at -1. He still had a good chance. Holt was at even, so things were okay. But then 11 turned out to be a real you-know-what for these guys. 2 bogeys and a double. Set Kester back a little more, and then everybody bogeyed 14, the par 5. That's another difficult hole, as I've said. So, I mean, that put Kester at +1. He did birdie 15, but then he got back to +1. And then here we go. On 18, we got a special result roll. That was interesting. I think it was 3 4s, and I don't know, the white die gave the normal golfer control, and then the 3 4s meant special result. Go to the special result for the par 5. Roll it 2 6s. You look at 2 6s, he hits the third shot onto the green, trickles into the hole, eagle. So he ends up at -1. If he had cleaned up some of the other areas of the game, of the round, maybe he had a chance to push Yi Chen for that. But Yi Chen will be the final qualifier, so I have them all here. But in any regard, so a little bit of sort of backstory on the course, and hopefully this is something that is helpful. It's probably not helpful when I'm zoomed in this far, but there we go. And let's see. Hi, Mr. Moley. Yeah, and yes, it definitely is. If you ever play that in Tiger Woods, it's just like, even the third shot on that hole is a bear. You'd think 100-yard, 120-yard pitch, but I have to describe it. I'll describe it the best I can. In the front left is a bunker, steep bunker. You get over the top of that. Usually the hole positions, especially on Sunday, are going to be on the back side of this ridge that kind of runs. Actually, what I could do is I could get out a piece of paper and maybe draw it. That's probably the most effective way to do this. So, if you're interested, some people take great interest. I'll draw it on the back of this score sheet here. So, you have this complex here where it's kind of like a kidney-shaped green like this on this hole 14. There's a ridge that runs about like that, and everything goes this way on the backside. So here's this bunker that I'm telling you about. And, I mean, this is steep. And so this right here is sort of like the high point. If you're going to draw like a relief map, you'd have this. So it's kind of like running like this. And then this guy here all comes down like this. So if you ever watch and I can zoom this in a little bit more. If you ever watch like the U.S. Open at, I'll zoom it in even more. If you ever watch the U.S. Open at Pebble, this thing will be hard as a rock and, about 95 on the stimp meter. So, you have that third shot and that pin is like right here. And you hit it right here, that sucker's going to be down here, and good luck having any chance at, it's like, it plays, another hole that's similar to this in a way is the 9th at Augusta, I should say, Champions Course, I think is what they call it in on the play site, but, where it's one of the, and that hole, the 9th, it's kind of more of like a, let me draw it over here. The 9th on that course is kind of like, the green is sort of like this, there is a bunker over here, and I think this is just this is like a big hill, like grass and stuff here, but this guy is heavily sloped to the front and heavily sloped down this way. So, like, if you put it with a lot of backspin and you land it right about here in the hole, you're trying to get to this hole placement here, and you hit it with spin, like right here, and you've got a lot of it, you're going to end up maybe 75 yards from the green, because that thing will get to the front, it'll look like it'll stop, and then all of a sudden it'll start trickling down, and so we'll see that in a couple of tournaments, the quote-unquote Champions Course. But so this is the 14th, and the 14th is, maybe for when I do the final round, maybe I'll have some pictures of the real course that I can show you, because if some of you are into golf, you're going to already know what the course is about. John, real quick here, is asking me how many courses there are in History Maker Golf. Out of the official ones, I believe there are 11 packs and 4 in a pack, so 44 probably. The first pack that he put out, I think there were a couple of courses that weren't PGA or major tournament courses. So, but after that, they really started to focus in on getting PGA Tour courses, majors, and also some foreign courses that often pop up in like British Opens and such. But the other thing is that if you were to go, let me turn this around because I think we're done with that. Whoa. Okay. If you were to go to their Delphi forum, so if you go to their website, plaay.com, and they should have a link to their forums, which are at Delphi. And I think if you wanted the actual URL, it might be DELPHI forums. So delphiforums.com/PLAAY games. So, and that's what Mr. Moley, that comment there is what I'm getting to, is that if you go in there, there's there is a thread there that talks about course information, and in that, or maybe there are some other ones. It's got to be in there. There's an Excel file that someone has put together that has all of these unofficial user created courses. If you get their newsletters, there'll be some courses that there may be a course or two that comes through there that's kind of an unofficial. I think they even had a course design competition recently, and they kind of gave in maybe the newsletters or even just for download from their site a bunch of courses. Yep. So, yeah, it's the thing about the user created ones, especially if they're like unique designs, they can be truly unique. So I used to play a game called Lynx on the computer, and they had a couple of fictional courses that, and I've never played any of the fictional ones, but what I could see is that you could really look to kind of trick up a course card, each hole card, just to try and make it more challenging and sort of test the limits. Hi, Al. So, in any regard, we've got the 156 golfers ready to go for this tournament. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that this afternoon or tomorrow, but in any regard, that's where it stands. This tournament has a purse of $8 million. The other tournaments I've run on this tour so far have been $6 million. So, now that's going to hurt the guys who took the week off, but they would have known that. It just happens all the time that you have guys taking weeks off. So, I also found somewhere an injury chart. It might be on their website, and I want to incorporate that into the making the cut, etc., because they have some instructions on how to use that. I would like to simulate injuries. Again, I think the reason why anybody wants to play these History Maker games is to have a chance to create sort of this narrative or storyline. Thanks, Al. I may have to do another one here. Maybe I'll do one at the holidays. Each holiday that comes up might be fun just to do something, pick some different golfers. But maybe at Christmas I'll do one that's the current stars. But there you go, Mr. Moley. So here we go. Just if you want to check out the Delphi forums, you can just go to their website, plaay.com. It's under community, has the Delphi forums, but they also, like I said, they have some giveaway type stuff that if you just kind of dig around. I mean, Keith, I think one of the things that has won Keith a lot of fans for his products is not only his kind of user. He's very user friendly, I guess what I'd say. His customer service is great. He really sort of embraces the idea of sort of, I don't want to say ginned up rules, but rules that improve the game over what, I don't think he considers his games to be the pinnacle of what they can be, and he knows that there are going to be things that others are going to do. And I even think he tries to highlight them in his newsletter when it makes sense. A lot of the users will, because I don't think he's a big operation, like as far as like a lot of manpower behind it. I don't know that for sure, but I get the impression that a lot of this he does himself and with a few either part-time or maybe full-time, but I would say probably more part-time hands and just fans that are willing to pitch in to try to keep this game and to make a game that, again, embraces more of the intangible qualities that I think traditional sports fans look at and say, you get modern sports fans, they're going to say momentum. They'll say maybe that's bunk. Traditional sports fans, I think, and people may have played the sport I mean, there's a reason why you've got a guy like Tony Romo just coming out of the NFL. I think this guy is a very progressive thinker when it comes to, he's gonna give you some insight during the broadcast about specific items that relate and really bring forth sort of a new attitude about how you're going to present the game. He's still kind of like yesterday I was watching him on Thanksgiving, and I'd say he was still sort of dumbing it down a little bit, but still I think you get Thursday night broadcasts are pretty spot on when it's him doing it. But even he talks about momentum and letting a team have some. I mean, I can understand like some of it is sort of rhetoric and just humdrum, but I think having a way to incorporate those aspects and to account for streaks. There's a little bit of streakiness in this game. It's very kind of softly introduced into the gameplay. So streaks, mood, stuff like that, experience. Those things are accounted for, but it's in a very like. It's not like you just take a big chunk of butter and like slap it on your bread and that's all you're eating is this butter. It's just a light spreading of those things just to try and account for the fact that you're going to have opportunities where that comes into play. So John says he loves the original APBA Golf, but it's great to see games at an even better level too. Yeah, I mean, I think what you could say about APBA Golf, at least from what I've seen of Tabletop Earl's videos and some other videos, is that it's a little bit more analytical, a little more mathematics based in terms of it's every shot, and you kind of have to do the calculations that aren't strictly odds based. You have a little bit more. I'm going to calculate out the distance for shots, for putts. It's a little more visible or visual, visually visually more accurate towards golf. It's going to probably make the person who is a hardcore golfer who doesn't want to deal with all of this sort of wordiness as opposed to actually nuts and bolts getting right down to it. I'm going to be able to have a 25-yard pitch instead of saying, oh, I'm going to end up with a difficult putt for par. So yeah, some people are going to like one versus the other. Some people will probably like both, and then you'll have some who just hate one or the other, and some that are just going to think they're both. Why don't you just hit the golf course? So but this is cheaper than the golf course, and it's never going to be as fun as real golf, but I do appreciate what they've done here. So I'm going to sign off. I will probably, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do making the cut in third round and then just skip the first half of the final round. We'll see. And not skip it, but not record that and then pick it up when the leaders make the turn or something like that. I just feel like we'll see. I'm still thinking about it. Maybe I'll just broadcast it all and do it live this time and just check in occasionally, but just try not to. I don't want to get caught up too much in, talking, and it just, makes the videos even longer. But, I mean, not that I'm ever accused of that. I'm doing it here, but all right, I'm going to get going. I got to go get some lunch, and am I going to do any match play? I mean, I'm very much open to it, but with everything that's on my plate, I don't have anything like specific planned at the moment, but maybe we will do some kind of a cup or something like that where we do some match play stuff. I think it really Mr. Moley says do it all, but as far as do all the video all of it, so maybe I will. The thing about if I don't video all of it, then you won't get to see how it plays out with holes like number 2 and number 6, and number 4, and the 8th, which is a bear of a hole. So, but I mean, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to best run golf tournaments on this channel. So I'm gonna keep feeling it out. I realize it's not as popular as baseball, but some people like it better and like to create content for both, for everybody. It just depends on how much time I have to spend doing it. But all right, take it easy, everybody. Have a good day. Maybe be back later for the cut stuff. We'll see. Cheers. Enjoy. God bless.